Does anyone have a question or a thought from the morning? Or yep, Barbara.
Yes, Venerable. I just had a question. If we are not fortunate to have fellow Buddhist practitioners surround us at the time of our death, what is the next best thing to avail ourselves with?
I mean, there are different, sometimes centers, and I'm sure maybe at some point, I don't know if it'll be this year, but, FPMT centers, they often do courses, weekend courses on the practicalities of this sort of thing. So some of those are on YouTube, and, there's resources available about, that go into more detail. In general, I think it's important to make sure that we think about what we can communicate to our, even if they're not Buddhist practitioners, but the people that will be around, our friends, our family, about what our wishes are, what kind of environment we want to, do we want to try to make it a priority to, die at home if that's at all possible? What are our wishes regarding, the lengths to which we want intervention? Because all of that is going to be impacting that period of time. And then, even choosing what can be played, what kind of mantras could be, there might not be actual people around, but there are lots of recordings of different mantras. FPMT has an MP3 download, and I think also a physical CD, or maybe it's just an MP3 download now of, mantras for the time of death, prayers for the time of death. And they actually have two. One is called, one for animals, and one is like, I think, just prayers for the time of death. But it's actually essentially the exact same thing, for both, because they're beneficial for. So we can also think about animals that are in our lives too, and what we can do to help them at the time of death. There's a whole book that Venerable Rabina often teaches on how to enjoy death and go happily to your next rebirth by Lama Zopa Rinpoche. He gives a lot of practical advice. So, it's about, there may not be a bunch of people reciting prayers, but you do, you can try to express what sort of environment is beneficial and conducive for you, and how you would like people to behave, and be respectful of that room and that space. And Venerable Rabina has done a number of courses on that book, and that book is just available to read as well. So yeah, so I would, that MP3 download is very good, and then also that book that's hundreds and hundreds of pages of lots of different ideas. But I would say mainly, you want to be, whether it's in person or not, you want to be hearing the sounds of mantra. You want to be, and you can even record yourself, having, if there are practices that you have a commitment to do, you can record yourself engaging in those practices, reciting different things that maybe you have a commitment, or you gravitate toward, and then you can listen to yourself doing it. And you can ask, if you have loved ones that they're not practitioners, but maybe they are respectful and supportive, you can say, can you remind me to think about my teacher? Can you remind me to, things like that.
Thank you, Venerable. I'll check out some of those sources. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Barbara, did you have, yeah.
I did. I actually have two questions. One of them is regarding Sukhavati. And I know in the prayer to be reborn in Sukhavati, it says, as soon as the appearance of the intermediate state arrive, may I be reborn in Sukhavati. Is that the one opportunity, or can you go to the bardo if you miss that first opportunity? Can you still be born in Sukhavati in the bardo when you're in the bardo?
I don't know.
Hard to know. Okay.
There could be a definitive answer. I just don't know what it is. I'm sorry.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, the Pure Lands, by creating a relationship to Amitabha, and the different, by engaging in those practices, the practice, getting empowerment of Amitabha, doing that, creating that kind of karmic connection, then due to the force of that karmic relationship and the vows that Amitabha has created, then we have that's an option that is open to practitioners who've created that kind of karmic cause. I don't want to speculate because I might be wrong. I would think, it seems like it would be a pretty powerful thing, but it's also, like I mentioned before, with the power of prayer and the power, it could be that karma shifts to prayers of people who are doing medicine Buddha puja and things for us. Things can shift too, but I don't know exactly how that would work.
Okay, thank you. And then the other question I have, for someone that is in the bardo, or we think might be in the bardo, aside from putting their name on a prayer list at a center, is there a mantra? Is like the medicine Buddha mantra the best one to be reciting for their benefit? Is it Amitabha's mantra? Or all of the above?
I mean, if it's possible, there are what are called the 8 prayers to benefit the dead, and so those, going through all 8 of those, maybe even just once a day or twice a day, going through, their FPMT has a text called the 8 prayers, so reciting, just going through the whole thing, maybe once a day, twice a day. If it's possible to, if they have a teacher, if it's possible to ask their teacher, what they recommend for that particular, oftentimes people will ask Lama Zopa, for specific prayers or practices for that particular person, because, so someone who might know their mind more directly can, medicine Buddha is really what Lama Zopa generally does recommend. That's if you're there, if you're actually in the presence of the dying person, then the mantras that, the Nam Gyalma mantra is quite powerful. Miktrupa, mantra is quite powerful. But I mean, medicine Buddha is generally what Lama Zopa goes to for things in general. So the whole, the sadhana is a short, there's a short sadhana practice. And then there's sort of like the intermediate puja. That puja is what most centers do. There's actually an extensive puja that, is longer, and, but yeah, generally speaking, medicine Buddha is what, the sort of the default.
Thank you, Venerable.
Any other questions? All right, so the 2 meditations that we're going to do in the afternoon session, we're going to do the 9-point meditation on death. And then we're going to do the dissolutions, as I mentioned. The one, if you wanted to do kind of like your own retreat, like to replicate this sort of thing, the one change you could make is instead of doing the 9-point death meditation the way that we're going to do it, because we're a little bit, we don't have as much time. The 3 main sections you could just do as their own meditation. You could spend, say, because we'll do them all together and we'll spend, half an hour or so on the whole practice, but there's 3 sections to the meditation, and each section has 3 sub points. So you could spend half an hour, on each of the 3 sections and just break it up, and then take a break, a 5-minute break between each of the 3 sections. That would take you much longer, but you'd have more time to go more deeply into the point. So that's the one alteration that you can make if you wanted to do your own kind of more expansive practice. Okay. So let's get back into meditation posture, a stable, comfortable, upright position. So we keep our feet flat and our back straight. Torso open, hands in the lap, right over left. The palms upturned and the thumbs gently touching. Our eyes are gently closed or slightly open. Gaze is unfocused and slightly downward. Try to maintain an awareness of being upright under our own power, not slouching, not leaning. But we scan through and release tension, rigidity in the body. Letting the body fall into place. And then again, cultivate a view of moving inward, away from the external world, holding your awareness to the body and mind, concentrating that awareness on the physical sensation of the air moving into and back out of the tip of the nostrils. Noticing quickly when something other than that one physical sensation arises in the mind, and without judgment or frustration, lifting your awareness up from the distraction again and again, and placing it gently but firmly on the breath. And then generate an altruistic motivation, wanting to use insight into death and impermanence as fuel for our practice, helping us to turn away from distraction, so that the end result of enlightenment can be swiftly achieved, and wanting that in order to work perfectly for the benefit of sentient beings. And the first contemplation is the certainty of death. And the first point to demonstrate the certainty of death is that everyone must die. So we can bring to mind all of the great rulers, kings, queens, the pharaohs, great generals, conquerors, incredible inventors, geniuses, bring to mind a whole variety of people with incredible accomplishments, from years past. And recognize that no matter their wealth or status or power, they all had to pass away. Even the greatest spiritual teachers, even the Buddha, showed the aspect of passing away. We can think of the world as it is now, with all its energy and vitality, all of the economic activity, the systems. Billions of people are participating in. And think that in 100 years, almost none of the people alive today, engaged in all that activity, will still be alive. We ourselves certainly will be long gone at that point. Try to get a clear sense of the world composed entirely of people not yet alive, composed of no one currently alive, oneself included. The next point under this topic is that one's lifespan is continuously decreasing. But from the moment that our body and mind came together in the womb, the amount of time that we had in this life began to diminish. Even when we're asleep or watching a movie, stuck in traffic, the number of additional hours, days left in this life is decreasing. It is as though we've boarded a train at the moment of conception that has traveled at one constant speed in one direction. Or perhaps more viscerally, as though we jumped out of a plane with no parachute, and ground getting closer and closer. I'm trying to get a clear sense of the unidirectional travel of time. Never stopping, never pausing. And the next point is that in our lives, the amount of time that we devote to practice is very small. As a child, we were consumed with school and play. We were consumed with careers, perhaps family. You can think of all of the time that we spend sleeping, eating, socializing. And try to think of how much time in a day or week we actually spend cultivating beneficial mental states, diligently, single-pointedly. And try to use these 3 points to give rise to a determination to practice spirituality, to devote oneself to awakening to one's potential. And then the next contemplation is the uncertainty of the time of death. And the first point to contemplate is that in the human realm, there is no set lifespan. In our world, in our realm, there are many children who die, many infants who die. People die as they look forward to graduating from high school or college, as they look forward to getting married. There are many times when you might observe an elderly person and a young person, and the young person will pass away before the elderly person. There are many thousands of people who went to sleep last night expecting to wake up again, who did not. And countless thousands of people making plans right now to take a trip or finish a project, and they will die before they can. Try to bring to mind examples along these lines to eliminate the false view that we have about the stability of our lives. The next point is that there are many causes of death. Our death could be caused by something external, a natural disaster, a fire, a flood, a car accident, an act of violence. Or it could be an internal cause. All of the diseases that people are subject to. Or simply the aging process. Even the things that we think of as supporting our life, food, medicine, water, these can be contaminated. We might take the wrong amount, or the wrong type. And try to bring to mind examples of all of the ways in which people pass away. Recognizing that one of these will be what happens to us. And then the next contemplation is the frailty of our body. You can think how a microscopic virus or bacteria so much smaller than the body can easily enter through a cut or simply breathing. Could be responsible for our death. Think of how easy it is to injure the body. How many people die in falls, accidents. And by reflecting on these points, try to develop the determination to begin that spiritual practice right now, to not put it off. Try to hold your mind in that determination. And then the last contemplation is that at the time of death, only our spiritual practice is of any benefit. And the first point is that our loved ones cannot really help at the time of death. We may be surrounded by friends and family, but the time in this life is ending, and we must experience that alone. And perhaps our attachment to friends and family could be an obstacle. Our own peace of mind may be disturbed by the realization that we will be separated from our loved ones. And they themselves might be imploring us to stay, even though there's no choice. Trying to recognize if there is attachment in the mind to remaining with friends and family, even in the face of the inevitability of death. See if you can lessen that clinging. And then the next point is that our possessions are of no value at the time of death. Our wealth, our possessions, they too might serve as an obstacle at the time of death. We might fear being separated from what we enjoy, what brings us comfort. Or what might happen to our cherished possessions once we die. See if you can recognize any attachment to material possessions and think of cultivating an attitude of giving them away, not thinking of them as one's own. And the next final point is that even our own body is of no use at the time of death. We've spent a lifetime caring for, nourishing, cleaning, protecting the body. But body and mind will separate. The body will be burned or buried. So we must learn to reduce the clinging attachment that we have to this physical form, because the mind will continue, leaving the body behind. Contemplating these points, try to give rise to a determination to practice that spirituality purely, unstained by the 8 worldly concerns. And when you're ready, we'll come back together. So we'll take a 5-minute break. Does anyone have a thought or question? No, we'll just break for 5 minutes then. And so this will be a meditation on the dissolutions that accompany the death process. So we just move back into a stable, comfortable, upright position, serviceable for meditation. And begin to quiet the mind by letting go of the outside world and moving inward and attending closely to the physical sensation of the air, moving into and back out with the tip of the nostrils. And then we begin to imagine ourselves at the time of our death, on the last day in this life, lying on our deathbed, we think that the first major sign of the process unfolding is the dissolution of the earth element of the body. Our body becomes thin and weak. Our limbs lose coordination. And we may feel a sense of pressure, as though there's great weight on the chest. We may have the sense of sinking. The eyesight will become unclear. And we lose track of opening or closing the eyes. Internally, there's the sign, the karmic appearance of a mirage, like a shimmering in the desert. Next, the water element of the body begins to dissolve, and the fluids of the body dry up. Mentally, we no longer experience the feeling tone of our experiences, pleasant and unpleasant and neutral, all become like one experience. All internal or external sound completely ceases. Into the mental consciousness, there's the karmic appearance like smoke. And then as the fire element next dissolves, we lose the ability to digest food or take water. We no longer recognize those around us. The breathing becomes weak and labored and long. We lose the ability to smell. And internally, there's a karmic appearance of sparks. Next, the wind element dissolves. and the breathing completely ceases. Physical action becomes impossible. We lose track entirely of external activities. The senses, external senses cease. Into the mind, there's the karmic appearance, like the last flickering of a dying candle. And then the 80 conceptual minds completely dissolve. And the appearance to the mind is a clear emptiness filled with white light. And as the mind becomes more subtle, the red vision arises, a clear emptiness filled with red light. And then the black vision appears to the mind, an emptiness filled with thick darkness. And then finally, the mind of clear light arises. Complete emptiness and clarity. Concentrate on the appearance of the clear light and think, all things are empty of inherent existence. Nothing exists under its own power, from its own side. All phenomena are interdependent and exist by being merely labeled by the mind. And try to generate a sense of merging with this open, infinite space in the nature of clear light. And hold to that experience. And then when you're ready, we'll come back together. Any thoughts or questions? All right, so then we'll just dedicate. Again, I'll screen share. I have prayers. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of my merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, and those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid, and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then, may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. Due to all the merits of the 3 times collected by me, Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, and all other sentient beings, may bodhicitta, cherishing others, letting go of oneself, letting go of the I, which is the source of all the happiness and success of myself and all other sentient beings, be generated within my own mind and in the minds of all sentient beings without even a second's delay. May that which has already been generated increase. Due to the merits of the 3 times collected by me, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas and all other sentient beings, may all the Father, Mother sentient beings have happiness. May the 3 lower realms be empty forever. May all Bodhisattvas' prayers succeed immediately, and may I be able to cause all this to happen by myself alone. Due to the merits of the 3 times collected by me, Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, and all other sentient beings, may any sentient being who hears me, touches me, remembers me, thinks about me, whether praising or criticizing, abuses me, treats me badly, or makes any connection with me, simply by having made that connection, may they never ever be reborn in the lower realms. May those sentient beings immediately be liberated from all disease, spirit harms, negative karma, and defilements, develop faith in refuge and karma, and quickly achieve enlightenment by actualizing the whole path, especially bodhicitta. By my hearing that someone is sick, may it immediately cause that person to completely recover and have the most meaningful life by practicing the Mahayana path. By my hearing that someone has died, may it cause that person to immediately be reborn in a pure land where they can get enlightened. In the land encircled by snow mountains, you are the source of all happiness and good. All-powerful Chinrizik, Tenzin Gyatso, please remain until samsara ends. Right, any concluding thoughts or questions? All right. Well, thanks for coming.
Thank you, Venerable.
Thank you.